Ruhua. He Xinjia's heart was like a beeping dog. Could it be that she had recently suffered retribution because she had given such a name to the cute idiots? To kill little Jiao and Ruhua at the same time was simply too tragic, wasn't it? Although this fellow was extremely unwilling, he still said respectfully, Ruhua, thank you for the name, princess. I'll take my leave. After Yun Chujio left, Princess Wang Yu coldly snorted. Nanichi, the Lord still doesn't want to see me. I've thought of many ways to get close to him, but it's all to no avail. I'm the princess of the Yen clan, but I can't even see him once. I really want to force my way in. Nanichi's expression changed. Princess, you absolutely mustn't. Have you forgotten? A few days ago, His Highness the Crown Prince wanted to force his way into the sacred hall. In the end, his feet had just stepped into the sacred hall when he was sent flying. His Highness the Crown Prince is still recuperating on the bed. That's because royal brother is a man. I don't believe that a delicate girl like me would be treated so rudely, Princess Wang Yu said angrily. This princess, I heard that Xingzun has a very bad temper. The people who serve him are sent flying every few days and some even lose their lives. So you'd better not offend Xingzun. Besides, Xingzun lives in our imperial palace. We'll meet sooner or later. Why don't you go to the vicinity of the sacred palace often? Maybe Xingzun will come out one day. Besides, even if he doesn't meet Xingzun, he'll definitely be moved by your sincerity, Grandma Qi advised. Princess Wang Yu nodded. Alright, this is the only way. I'll take that Ru Hua to the vicinity of the sacred palace tomorrow. Prepare a few sets of green clothes for her. I think they'll be more suitable for her. Okay. Granny Qi agreed. She thought to herself that her big red lips and the green palace-made uniform were simply too ugly. After Granny Qi came out, she called He Xinjiao to the side. Ru Hua, the princess will bring you around the temple tomorrow. Be smart and don't offend the princess. Also, these palace-made uniforms are yours. Yun Chujia's eyes twitched when she saw the green palace-maid's uniforms in Nanny Qi's hands. Was this the rhythm of a match between red and green? Nanny Qi lowered her voice again and said, Little girl, I think you're quite pleasing to the eye. Let me remind you that if you don't want to be implicated, you must stop the princess from forcefully breaking into the sacred hall. Otherwise, the princess will not recover and neither will you. Yun Chujio nodded her head gratefully and didn't ask further. She didn't need to ask to guess that it was nothing more than Princess Wang Yu's unrequited love for her. Perhaps because He Xinjia's appearance was too ugly, the palace maids of Wang Yu Palace didn't push her out. In addition, this fellow had a sweet mouth, so he quickly found out about most of the matters. The Lord had arrived at the Yen clan's imperial palace about 2 months ago. As for what the Lord was here for, they weren't too sure. They had never seen Xingzun's appearance before. It was said that Xingzun usually wore a mask. However, Xingzun's demeanor of looking down at the world was like a natural noble aura. Everyone who saw Xingzun could not help but want to submit to him. Yun Chujio chimed in. She cursed in her heart. Pui. What kind of demeanor of looking down on the world? It was like a natural noble aura. It was nothing more than the pressure brought about by their high spiritual power. And she's wearing a mask? Obviously she's too ashamed to face anyone. What the hell is this Xingzun? Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. The next day, Princess Wang Yu brought He Xinjiao and a few palace maids to the vicinity of the sacred palace. Princess Wang Yu was quite satisfied with Yun Chujia's red and green style. She asked the other palace maids to stand back and let Yun Chujio serve her. Yun Chujio looked at the sacred palace not far away while dealing with Princess Wang Yu. She didn't see anything special about it. It was just that it was a little more majestic. It didn't look any different from an ordinary palace. Princess Wang Yu was calm at first, but she soon became impatient. If you keep walking around like this, when will you be able to see the Lord? I will barge in today. I don't believe that the Lord would really have the heart to slap me away. Xingzun said. Yun Chujia's eyes twitched. It didn't matter if Xingzun was courting death, but if Xingzun was beaten to a pulp, she wouldn't have a chance to get close to the Lord. Therefore He Xinjiao rolled her eyes and said, Princess, the gate of the sacred palace can block your sight, but it can't block the sound. Why don't you play a zither or sing a song? Maybe you can lure the Lord out. Princess Wang Yu felt that what Yun Chujio said made sense, so she began to play the zither outside the sacred hall. Yun Chujio felt that Princess Wang Yu played really well, but she was probably playing the zither to a cow. Sure enough, Princess Wang Yu sang and played for a long time, but there was no response inside the sacred hall. It was as if she was deaf. Princess Wang Yu immediately vented her anger. Ruhua, since you came up with the idea, you can sing. If you can't sing the Lord out, you don't have to eat dinner tonight. He Xingjia's heart was like a beeping dog. Who did she offend? She didn't know how to sing those lousy songs of the nightmare race either. This fellow had an idea. He translated the lullaby that Di Biming sang for her into the ancient nightmare language and started humming. Princess Wang Yu frowned when she heard that. What nonsense are you singing? Who are you trying to coax to sleep in broad daylight? Men, take him away and give him 10 strokes of the cane. Pa and Dan 0 vel. C0M. Just as He Xingjie was about to defend herself, the door of the sacred hall opened. Almost everyone was stunned. Did this Ruhua really sing Xingzun out? Everyone's eyes were focused on the man standing at the entrance of the sacred hall. The man was dressed in black and wore a silver mask on his face. Just such a figure was enough to make Princess Wuyo faint from excitement. The corner of Yun Chujia's eyes twitched. However, she had to admit that the so-called lord was indeed somewhat domineering and was on par with Xingzun. This guy narrowed his eyes and took a look. Why did he feel that Xingzun's figure was so similar to Xingzun's? This guy shook his head. She was really confused. He Xingjie was dumbfounded. This lord asked her to go to Xingzun? How could her honor attract men? Was there something wrong with Xingzun's eyes? Maybe it was red-green color blindness? Princess Wang Yi could not believe her ears. She pointed at Yun Chujio and shouted sharply, "Lord, you chose this ugly monster because of me?" The lord did not even look at Princess Wang Yu. He waved his hand and Princess Wang Yu flew out like a kite with a broken string. Yun Chujio felt that this scene was strangely familiar. It seemed to be the same when the pretty boy slapped the person away. However, this lord's voice was not the same as the pretty boy's, so it could not be the pretty boy's voice. It was the voice of Xingzun. It was estimated that people with high spiritual power could be so pretentious. No matter what, it was not bad to be able to get close to this lord. Maybe they could find a way to leave. This Xingzun did not look like a demon. However, a demon could also transform. Maybe it was an old demon, so it could not be seen with the naked eye. Of course, this Xingzun could also be a member of the Divine Devil Hall. In any case, he was not a good person. As He Xingjie had a preconceived idea, she felt that this Xingzun was not pleasing to the eye no matter how she looked at him. However, she still opened her bloody mouth and leaned over. "Xingzun, Ruhua salutes you." Xingzun's mouth twitched slightly and he said in a low voice, "Get in here." He Xingjie was angry. "Just get in. Get in." She would scare him to death if he got in. Of course, this guy only dared to complain in his heart. He still followed Xingzun into the temple obediently. Looking at Xingzun's back, this guy looked more and more like a gigolo. He called out with his courage, "Xingzun, Pa and Dan 0 vel." C0M. The lord in front of him stopped in his tracks. Yun Chujia's little heart was thumping non-stop. Could it be that he was really a gigolo? However, how could a gigolo be the lord of the Yen clan? The lord turned his head and looked at Xingzun with disdain. Not only is he ugly, his brain isn't working. Shut up. Yun Chujio, crazy. Since she was ugly and her brain was not functioning properly, why did he want her to follow him in? Did he want to think of a way to torture her? It did not make sense. She did not offend him. Did the lullaby that she sang offend him? Oh my god, if that was the case, this was really a tragedy caused by a lullaby. The more He Xingjie thought about it, the more she felt that things were not going well. She used her spiritual sense to speak to the nightmare beast. "Curly hair, if this lord wants to kill me later, you have to weave a dream for him. Do you hear me?" Meng Yanshou said with a smile. Meng Yanshou's 2 rabbit ears drooped as he timidly said, Little fairy, I can't afford to offend this person. You'd better not provoke him either. Let's run for our lives." "You curly hair, didn't you brag about not wanting anything in front of me? Why are you so afraid of this lord? Is he a human or a demon or some bullshit?" Xingzun's voice was filled with fear. Meng Yanshou lowered his voice and said, "Keep your voice down. Just don't provoke him or we will all die." He Xingjie was so angry that she almost vomited blood. "Are you stupid? How could he know that we are communicating with our spiritual senses? How did I save a good-for-nothing like you? You know that, but you refuse to tell me. From today on, I will not take your words." Meng Yanshou mumbled softly, "So be it. Anyway, you should stay away from him." I still want to return to my original body. Xingzun glanced at the guards of the temple and said gloomily. Those guards nodded their heads like chickens eating rice. What a joke. Unless they had lived enough, they would not go near Xingzun. They could not wait to stay away from Xingzun. They had never seen such a difficult master. However, these guards were also very puzzled. Xingzun usually did not leave the temple. Why did he come back today with such an ugly monster? This Xingzun's taste was a little too strange, right? He actually liked the red and green of a waxen face, 8-shaped eyebrows and big red lips. If they had known that Xingzun had such a taste, Princess Wang Yu would have probably dressed like this a long time ago, right? He Xinjiu opened the door and saw that the Lord had entered a room next door. Seemed to be a study room. Xingzun looked at He Xinjiu. He looked at the bucket of hot water on the floor and released the Meng Yanshou, intending to let it go for a breather. However, He Xinjiu thought that this curly-haired guy's thoughts were not pure, so he might peep at it. Therefore, she stuffed the Meng Yanshou back into the spirit beast bag and let Xiao He out to let it go for a breather at the door. He Xinjiu took a simple bath and then she was a little worried. This fellow felt that she was too good-looking. What if she attracted the Lord's attention? If she put on makeup, the Lord would probably let her wash up again. This fellow took the only remaining Xingzun pill to look at it and swallowed it painfully. He took out a mirror to look at it, and when he saw the extremely ordinary appearance in the mirror, he nodded his head in satisfaction. This way it was much safer. He Xinjiu felt that everything was safe, so she pushed the door open and walked out. The guards were all dumbfounded when they saw Yun Chujiu. It turned out that she didn't look so ugly after taking off her makeup. At least she wouldn't scare people when she came out in the middle of the night. He Xinjiu didn't know what to do at the moment. That bullshit lord didn't come out of the room next door and didn't give any orders. So should she return to the Palace of Forgetfulness or stay here? This guy weighed the pros and cons and decided to stay in the sacred hall. Firstly, that Princess Wang Yu probably hated her to death now. If she returned to the Palace of Forgetfulness, she would be asking for trouble. Secondly, her purpose of entering the palace was to get close to the Lord. Probably only this Lord knew the way to return to the immortal Yuan continent. It was better to think of a way to get closer to Xingzun. Just as Xingzun was thinking about this, he heard someone outside the sacred hall say respectfully, "Xingzun, His Majesty has prepared a banquet. He respectfully invites you to attend it." Although the Xingzun had never attended a banquet before, in order to express his sincerity, Emperor Yan still sent Chief Ji of the Imperial Palace to invite Xingzun on time every day. Chief Ji was already used to it. Every time he finished speaking, there would be no response from the sacred hall at all. It was as if he had not heard anything. He waited for half an hour before he could return to report his mission. General Manager Ji waited for a while. Sure enough, there was no movement. Just as he was about to leave, he heard a low voice from inside. "What time?" General Manager Ji did not react for a while. The attendant beside him tugged at him. Only then did he react. He almost trembled as he said, 5 minutes at night. He Xinjiu was also very puzzled. Wasn't this crazy lord a shut-in? Why did he agree to go to the banquet? However, it was also good that he went to the banquet. She could take the opportunity to search his study and bedroom. Maybe she could find some clues. Therefore, He Xinjiu said to the guards with her hands behind her back, "Go in and clean the room. If it's not clean, be careful that the Lord will kill you all." Guard number 1. Is there something wrong with this red and green combination? How dare she command them? Guard number 2. Is this Hua Hua's brain damaged? What right does she, a palace maid, have to command them? Guard number 3. Does this Hua Hua think that she is the Lord's servant just because she took a bath? Seeing that the guards did not move, Yun Chujiu lowered her voice and said gloomily, "If you don't listen to me, I will say that you tried to sneak into the house to watch me take a bath." The guards, "You win. You are shameless enough. I've never seen such a shameless person. And she's actually a little girl. What the hell?" The guards had no choice but to suppress their anger and clean up the house. He Xinjiu found that the house that she took a shower in previously seemed to be the living room, so she sat down on the chair and took out her notebook to read happily. This fellow had already thought it through. The worst outcome would be to offend that Xingzun. Since it was already like this, why would he treat her badly? Moreover, as the saying goes, there was no eternal enemy, only eternal interests. That shit Xingzun had suddenly come to the Dark Continent. He must have some motive and most likely there was no progress. If he insisted on making things difficult for her, she would use this as a bargaining point to deal with him. As for whether or not the Lord would negotiate with her, this fellow didn't even consider it. At most, it would just be a war. She had a large kitchen knife in her hand. What was there to be afraid of? Meng Yanshou really wanted to die first. How did it end up with such an ancestor? Not to mention that the large kitchen knife had yet to recover into the Heaven Punisher Divine Axe. Even if he really carried the Heaven Punisher Divine Axe, could he fucking chop that person to death? The Nightmare Beast looked at the other stupid Meng Yanshou in the Spiritual Beast bag. All of them were very relaxed and did not seem to be worried at all. Humph. A bunch of freeloaders. That black-hearted little girl is dead and you guys can't live either. The Nightmare Beast said angrily. Xiao Hanyo glanced at it. You want to pretend to be the boss here? Everything has a first-come, first-served basis. You're just a latecomer, what are you so awesome for? I'm warning you, you're behind the little bastard, you're Xiao Qi, get out of my way. Meng Yanshou was so angry that his eyes were red. Well, they were red to begin with, so he pounced fiercely at Xiao Hanyo. A moment later, Meng Yanshou was beaten up by the group until he had nothing left to live for. Damn it. Black-hearted brat, I want to change my host body. I don't want to be a rabbit. He Xinjiu ignored these idiots. After reading the script for a while, she felt a little sleepy. She took out a reclining chair and sat on it, falling asleep in a daze. The sky quickly darkened. Manager Ji arrived outside the sacred hall 2 hours in advance and waited anxiously, afraid that the Lord would lose his temper if things didn't go his way. Pand Dian 0 VL-CM. However, as time passed, there was no movement inside the sacred hall at all. Xing Zun's heart immediately sank. Could it be that the Lord had changed his mind and did not want to go to the banquet again? If the Lord really did not go to the banquet, would the Lord think that Xing Zun was lying? Xing Zun's heart was in a mess. He consoled himself that it was not even 3 minutes past 5. The Lord was a punctual person and would come out in a while. Yes, that must be the case. Inside the temple, He Xinjiu finally woke up. When she opened her eyes, she was shocked. She saw a person standing at the door, staring at her. He Xinjiu subconsciously looked at herself. Luckily, her clothes were still there. Oh my god, wasn't this Xing Zun going to a banquet tonight? Why was he staring at her with his dead fish eyes? Wait a minute, dead fish eyes? Pan DN0 Velum. When He Xinjiu looked at Xing Zun's eyes again, she found that Xing Zun's eyes were a little cold, totally different from Di Biming's angry eyes. That's right, how could this psycho be a gigolo? She must have been scared silly just now. Xing Zun had no choice but to lower his head under the eaves. This guy hurriedly stood up and said in fear and trepidation, Xing Zun, I accidentally fell asleep just now. Please forgive me. Xing Zun stared at her coldly. He Xinjiu's little heart was thumping violently. Was this crazy person going to make a move? Just as He Xinjiu was about to speak, she heard a clearly trembling voice coming from outside the door. Lord, I have come to fetch you to the banquet. The one who spoke was Manager Ji. 15 minutes had already passed and there was still no movement inside the sacred hall. He could only take the risk of being slapped away and shout, Xing Zun. Xing Zun frowned slightly and turned around to leave the room. He Xinjiu finally heaved a sigh of relief. Just as she was about to drink some water to calm herself down, she heard Xing Zun's voice from outside the door. Aren't you going to follow me? Yun Chujiu was stunned. Was he talking about her? When this fellow walked out of the door, he saw that Xing Zun had already arrived at the main entrance of the sacred hall. The guards were all looking at her nervously, indicating that she should follow him quickly. Otherwise, the Lord would be furious again. Yun Chujiu thought to herself, since she was going to attend the banquet and not to throw her life away, she might as well follow him. Perhaps she could even borrow the opportunity to eat some good food. It just so happened that she had not eaten dinner yet. Hence, Xing Zun followed behind the Lord and left the sacred hall. Manager Ji, who was kneeling on the ground, almost cried when he saw the Lord coming out. It was not easy. Xing Zun was stunned when he saw Yun Chujiu. He had heard that Princess Wang Yu's palace maid, Ru Hua, had been brought into the sacred hall by the Lord. However, didn't they say that the palace maid had a sallow face, 8-shaped eyebrows, red lips and green lips? Although this palace maid was wearing a green palace maid uniform, although she was not pretty, she was not ugly either. Was she the Ru Hua from before? Although Chief Ji was curious, he didn't dare to ask further and carefully led the way. Yun Chujio looked at the white fur on the ground and the flowers on both sides of the road and couldn't help but criticize Xing Zun in her heart. This lord really has quite a grand presence. He was struck by lightning for acting cool. Boom. A purple heavenly lightning descended from the sky and struck He Xinjiu. He Xinjiu, damn it, blind heavenly lightning, you've struck the wrong target. However, could such a blind heavenly lightning strike her again? It was fine even if it didn't include male. Manager Ji and the others looked at He Xinjiu with a dumbfounded expression. How could this Ru Hua be completely fine after being struck by the heavenly lightning? That's right, the Lord must have diffused the heavenly lightning for her without batting an eyelid. The Lord was truly unrivaled in his skills. He was indeed worthy of being the lord of their Yen clan, Xing Zun. Hence, everyone's gaze towards Xing Zun became even more pious and respectful. Yun Chujio, what exactly happened? Why did it feel like after she was struck, everyone's reaction was so calm? Could it be that the Yen clan's people were often struck by lightning? He Xinjiu was walking behind Xing Zun, so she could not see Xing Ziyuan's expression. However, Xing Zun did not even stop, which showed that he did not take this thunder seriously. He Xinjiu comforted herself. She reckoned that this place was really filled with thunder. Otherwise, how could this shitty Xing Zun be so calm? Finally, they arrived at the meeting hall. The meeting hall was brightly lit. It was so quiet that one could even hear a pin drop. Emperor Yen, the Empress, a group of nobles, and even Princess Wang Yu and the heavily injured Crown Prince were supported by people to welcome them at the entrance of the meeting hall. When everyone saw the holy senior, they hurriedly bowed. Emperor Yan's old face was full of flattery. Holy senior, I have already asked someone to prepare some food and wine. Please come in. Xing Zun said. Cold sweat was dripping down Emperor Yan's forehead. How could he call himself Xing Zun in front of the Lord? He was really going to die. The Lord did not pursue the matter further. Instead, he stepped into the meeting hall. He Xinjiu followed closely behind Emperor Yan and the others using her tiger-like power. Princess Wang Yu, who was supported by someone, glared at He Xinjiu's back. The regret in her heart was like a torrential river. If she had known this would happen, she would never have let this red and green couple meet the Lord. But now, the Lord had even brought this red and green couple with him to the banquet. Xing Zun had really angered her to death. She did not believe that the Lord really liked this red and green couple. Although this red and green couple was not as ugly after removing their makeup, they were not as beautiful as her. She had to let the Lord know today that only her noble Princess Wang Yu was worthy of him. Naturally, the Lord sat on the main seat. Emperor Yan only sat on the right-hand side, while the Empress and Crown Prince sat down according to their status. As for He Xinjiu, she was only a palace maid, so she could only stand behind Xing Zun. This guy looked at Xing Zun's neck and thought to himself, I wonder if I have a chance of winning if I use the kitchen knife now? 0. There's no chance of winning at all. Little fairy, don't court death. I haven't married a wife yet. Meng Yanshou wailed loudly in the spiritual beast bag. Yun Chujio, she was just thinking about it. Did curly hair need to be so excited? Could it be that this crazy Xing Zun had dealt with it before? Curly hair, could it be that you were locked up by this crazy Xing Zun before? He Xinjiu asked tentatively. Meng Yanshou said happily, fortunately I didn't fall into his hands at that time. Otherwise it wouldn't be as simple as being locked up. Alright, stop trying to trick me. I won't say anything. Seeing that the Lord had drunk the wine, Emperor Yan suddenly felt that the tension in his heart had eased a little. Lord, I don't know what kind of dishes you like, so I've asked the kitchen to prepare some more. Please try some, Emperor Yan said courteously. Yun Chuju thought to herself, how is this some? The table in front of the crazy lord was almost 10 feet long. She didn't know why the Yen clan had such a long table. The table was filled with all kinds of food. From cold plates to hot soup, there were more than 10 plates of fruit plates. What a waste. He was struck by lightning. Boom. An explosion sounded from the roof of the meeting hall. Fortunately, the meeting hall was relatively sturdy. A bolt of lightning did not do much, but He Xinjiu felt guilty. This guy quickly lowered his head and did not say a word. Could it be that she had become a jinx like Xiao He? However, this skill was good. In the future, if he said that he would be struck by lightning whenever he had nothing to do, Wouldn't he not have to worry about not having the power of lightning? Emperor Yen entertained himself by telling a few jokes that were not considered jokes. The Lord did not even move the corner of his mouth. Emperor Yen himself felt very awkward, so he clapped his hands and a beautiful woman began to dance. Hei Xinjiu stared at the delicious food on the table, cursing in her heart, "Are these people sick? If there is delicious food, why don't they just leave it? Don't they know that it is shameful to waste it?" This guy did not eat lunch or dinner. He only ate a fruit and some melon seeds. He was already so hungry that he did not want it anymore. Now that he saw the food, his stomach began to growl and growl. Hei Xinjiu was thick-skinned, but she felt that it was quite embarrassing. She could only silently move backward, hoping that the crazy Xingzun did not hear her. Xingzun held a wine glass in his hand and casually sat on the chair. A few rays of light flashed in his eyes, and the corners of his mouth curled up. Princess Wang Yu, who was sitting below, looked at Xingzun with a face full of infatuation. Although Xingzun was wearing a mask, his bearing was superior to all the men of the nightmare race. This was especially true for Xingzun's lazy sitting posture and the slightly raised corner of his mouth. Princess Wang Yu felt that as long as Xingzun smiled at her, she would be willing to die. Coincidentally, the music stopped. Princess Wang Yu stood up in a flash. With a blush on her face, she said shyly, "Your Excellency, Wang Yu has specially practiced the zither skills. Now Wang Yu will play a song for you." After Princess Wang Yu finished speaking, she didn't wait for the Lord to speak and quickly left her seat. She asked the palace maids to set up the zither platform and began to play the zither. Princess Wang Yu felt that it might not have been the red and green song that attracted the Lord this afternoon. It might have been her zither that attracted the Lord. Then when the Lord came out, he mistakenly thought that it was the red and green zither that Xingzun was playing. It must be so. While Princess Wang Yu was playing the zither, she kept stealing glances at the Lord. She felt that her entire heart was melting. Hei Xinjiu had already retreated far away. She quietly took out a meat bun from her storage ring and hid it in her sleeve. Using the sleeve as a cover, she began to eat it. "Damn it! I'm starving to death. People are iron rice and steel. I'm so hungry that I can't stop eating." While this guy was enjoying his meal, he heard the Lord say coldly, "Pour the wine for Xingzun." Hei Xinjiu didn't react in time. This guy was still eating the meat buns without caring about his own safety. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became depressing. Princess Wang Yu, who was playing the zither, couldn't sit still anymore and fell to the ground. In the weird silence, a certain Jiao smacked her lips. Yes, the kind that was self-sufficient. Emperor Yen heard Hei Xinjiu sipping water and suddenly felt blessed. Could it be that the Lord had asked Xingzun to serve wine? He said tentatively, "What's her name? Yes, she's the one who drank the water. Why aren't you pouring the wine for the Lord?" Hei Xinjiu was stunned for a moment. So the lunatic was asking her to pour the wine? This bullshit Lord was really pretentious. If he wanted her to pour the wine, he could have just said so. He only said the word "pour the wine." Who knew who was going to pour the wine for him? Besides, there were so many palace maids. Why did she have to pour the wine? Did she look good? Hei Xinjiu cursed in her heart, but she still obediently went to the side of the Lord and picked up the wine pot on the table to pour a cup of wine for Xingzun. Xingzun picked up the wine cup and drank the wine in one gulp. He said coldly, "Pour the wine." Hei Xinjiu could only pour another cup and Xingzun drank it in one gulp. The Lord drank one cup after another. Hei Xinjiu could only pour one cup after another as she cursed in her heart. Damn it, this shitty Lord was actually a drunkard. However, this fellow's gaze was quickly attracted to Xingzun's hands. Why were these hands so similar to the hands of a gigolo? This fellow must have lost his mind. He actually stretched out his claws to touch it. In the meeting hall, everyone was stunned. Oh my god, does that red and green couple want to die? They actually openly touched the hand of Xingzun? Does she want to die? It's fine if you want to die, but don't implicate them. After Hei Xinjia's paw touched Xingzun's hand, the cold touch instantly woke her up. But has she lost her mind? Why did she touch this crazy person's hand? However, it was not a big deal. Strangers in the future could shake hands with each other. It was not a big deal for her to touch this shitty Lord's hand. At most, she would not tell the gigolo. However, this guy thought that since he had already touched the Lord's hand, It was a good opportunity to take a look at the Lord's right hand. She remembered that there was a horizontal line on Di Biming's right palm. At that time she even teased him and said that it was a broken palm. The Lord frowned slightly and suddenly pulled his hand out of He Xinjia's demonic claw. Then he snorted coldly, "Flower addict." After saying that, the Lord flicked his sleeve and left the meeting hall with a whoosh. Everyone only saw an afterimage. He Xinjiu, flower addict? But which eye of his saw her flower addict? He just wanted to see if he was a gigolo. Although there were many suspicious points, she always felt that this lord was very similar to a gigolo. Could it really be her imagination? The meeting hall fell into a strange silence again. Suddenly, Princess Wang Yu got up from the ground and pointed at Yun Chujiu fiercely. "Men, kill this lowly servant who offended the Lord." Yun Chujiu, fuck. Xingzun. 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 He Xinjiu sat down on the Lord's seat and said pretentiously, "I'm the Lord's subordinate. Who dares to touch me?" No one knew whether it was the Lord's name or He Xinjia's imposing manner, but none of the imperial guards dared to come forward. Princess Wang Yu was so angry that her eyes were red. "You all don't want to live anymore, do you? Do you all listen to her or to me? I found this Ru Hua from outside. She is not the Lord's person at all. Kill her for me." When the imperial guards heard Princess Wang Yu's words, they immediately surrounded He Xinjiu. Buttface was also among the imperial guards. After hesitating for a moment, he stood beside He Xinjiu and said with a trembling voice, Little fairy, what should we do?" It was not that Buttface was loyal to Yun Chujiu, but that he had relied on Yun Chujiu's connections to enter the Nightmare Clan's imperial palace as a guard. If He Xinjiu could not heal him, he would not be able to live. He might as well give it his all. He Xinjiu took out a chair from her storage ring. She said to Buttface, "What do you mean, what should we do? Are you hungry? Let's eat first. I'm warning you. You have to figure out who is more powerful, the Lord or that ugly princess of yours. After all, you only have one life." Buttface looked at He Xinjiu, who was gnawing on a chicken drumstick, and then at the dumbfounded guards around him. He felt that he must not have woken up. Really, this was all a dream. It was best to wake up immediately from a nightmare. Princess Wang Yu was so angry that she was about to explode. That red and green couple actually called her an ugly freak? "All of you kill her. I want to cut her into 1,000 pieces." Princess Wang Yu shouted in exasperation. The imperial guards of the Yan clan's imperial palace did not move when they heard Princess Wang Yu's order. They looked at He Xinjiu, who was feasting on her food, and muttered in their hearts, "This person clearly has nothing to fear. Could she really be a person of the Lord?" That's right. Previously, the Lord had insisted that she pour the wine for Xingzun to drink. Only a ghost would believe it if it was fine. Also, the Lord was such a perverted person. He was actually touched by this red and green duo and did not kill her. What did this mean? It meant that the Lord treated this red and green duo differently. As for Princess Wang Yu wanting to kill them, there was still Emperor Yan up there. Moreover, the law did not punish everyone. Could she really kill all of them? Hence, those imperial guards of the Yan clan's imperial palace were tacitly watching He Xinjiu eating and drinking. Not one of them dared to make a move. When Princess Wang Yu saw that those imperial guards did not listen to her orders, she was so angry that she almost fainted. They had rebelled. These people had rebelled. Just as Princess Wang Yu was about to personally kill Yun Chujiu, Emperor Yan glared at her. "Wang Yu, shut up. Men, send the princess back to Wang Yu Palace and recuperate in Wang Yu Palace for the time being." Princess Wang Yu could not believe her ears. Had her father gone mad? He was actually defending that red and green couple? And he had even grounded her? Before Princess Wang Yu could fly into a rage, she was forcefully taken away by the maidservant beside the Empress. The Empress was much more sensible than Princess Wang Yu. There was not only one prince in the harem, nor was there only one princess. If she offended Emperor Yan, she might not even be able to hold on to her position as the Empress. The Empress tried to figure out Emperor Yan's intentions, then she smiled and said to He Xinjiu, "Miss Hua, I've spoiled Wang Yu so much that he's very impetuous. Don't take it to heart. These dishes are a little cold. Why don't I send someone to serve you some new dishes?" The Empress naturally did not mean to serve He Xinjiu any new dishes. She just wanted to give both parties a way out. Who would have thought that there was someone who really did not know how to be polite? Alright, then I'll have to trouble the Empress. Alright, bring me more meat dishes. I don't like to eat tasteless vegetables, Hei Shinjio said as she chewed on the drumstick. The Empress, however, since the words had already left her mouth, she could only order someone to remove the cold dishes on the table and order the imperial kitchen to bring the newly cooked dishes over. Hei Shinjio looked at the table full of delicacies and immediately smiled. She said to the dumbfounded crowd, "Don't just stand there. Let's eat together. Also, the dance just now looked pretty good to me. Hurry up and make them dance. It's such a beautiful day. If we let them down like this, we'll be struck by lightning." Boom. An explosion of lightning struck the roof of the meeting hall. Fortunately, the meeting hall was very sturdy and did not suffer any damage. Hei Shinjio laughed dryly. Coincidence, it's purely a coincidence. Come, continue eating. Emperor Yen and the rest's attitude towards Yun Chujio immediately changed. If it was only for the sake of the Lord's face before, now there was a little fear. This red and green pair said that the lightning had attracted heavenly lightning. If they offended her, wouldn't they be struck by lightning? Therefore, even though everyone did not know the taste of food, they still perfunctorily accompanied Hei Shinjio to eat and drink. The Lord, who had returned, originally thought that he would see Hei Shinjio being beaten up by the crowd. Who would have thought that not only was Hei Shinjio fine, she even took over Xingzun's seat and ate and drank while commenting on the singing and dancing. It was extremely nourishing. Hei Shinjio was eating and drinking like a tiger, feeling her scalp go numb. She looked up and saw the Lord staring at her at the entrance of the temple. Xingzun was staring at her with a gloomy expression. The other people in the meeting hall also felt the intimidating pressure. Why did this fiend come back? The singing and dancing stopped abruptly, and the meeting hall was suddenly filled with a strange silence. Burp. A loud burp broke the silence. Hei Shinjio was probably too guilty and could not help but burp. Hei Shinjio wondered in her heart, why did this psycho suddenly come back? This guy stood up and said with an embarrassed smile, "Xingzun, I thought you were full. Come, the food is still warm, come and eat it quickly." Xingzun gave Hei Shinjio a cold look, then turned around and left the meeting hall. Hei Shinjio was dumbfounded. Was he crazy? Could it be that he just wanted to glare at her? Crazy. He was as crazy as the pretty boy. This guy's heart was really big. He said to the crowd, "My lord must have lost his way, so he came here. Come, let's continue eating. That dance just now was pretty good. Keep dancing." The crowd looked at Emperor Yen blankly. Emperor Yen waved his hand to indicate that they should follow Yun Chujio's instructions. Emperor Yan's heart was in a mess. He had a bad feeling. This red and green combination seemed to be even more difficult to deal with than the Lord. Where did Wang Yu get such an ancestor from? An hour later, Hei Shinjio finally had her fill. She staggered out of the meeting hall. Before she left, she didn't forget to take her bag with her. "Little fairy, where are we going now? Are we going out of the palace?" Buttface naturally followed behind Hei Shinjio. Now he had nowhere else to go except for Hei Shinjio. "Out of the palace. Let's go, I'll take you to the temple." Hei Shinjio wasn't stupid. She felt that the Lord was apparently very tolerant of her. At least he didn't seem to have much killing intent. However, she didn't think that Xingzun would kill her. What was the reason? Yun Chujio could not figure it out. She felt that Xingzun was very similar to the gigolo. Although there were many differences, she still felt that the two of them were strangely similar. Therefore, he decided to return to the temple and find an opportunity to look at Xingzun's right hand. He could not change his palm print even if he changed it. Little fairy, can't we go somewhere else?" Buttface's legs went weak when he heard that they were going to the temple. "I'm going to the temple anyway, so you can do whatever you want." Buttface thought about it and realized that he had nowhere else to go except to follow this troublemaker. If he separated from her, he might lose his life immediately, so he could only follow Hei Shinjio. When the two arrived at the gate of the temple, they found that the gate was tightly shut. Hei Shinjio sang until her throat was smoking. There was no movement in the temple and the lights were off. It was obvious that the Lord had gone to sleep. Damn it. This was too much of a bully. Forget it. There was nothing that could not be solved with a good night's sleep. He would sleep first. Therefore, this fellow took out a small omnipotent tent and placed it at the entrance of the temple. He said to Buttface, "I'm going to rest now. Do as you wish." Buttface, Didn't he say that he would take him to the temple for a walk? Didn't he say that he would take him to fly with him from now on? Was he going to be a watchdog at the entrance of the temple? Although Buttface was dumbfounded, he still sat beside the tent and meditated. No matter what, the entrance of the temple was better than other places. The next day Buttface woke up early. He couldn't fall asleep even if he had something on his mind. He thought that Hei Xinjie would wake up early as well, but the sun was already high up in the sky and Hei Xinjie was still asleep. Buttface thought to himself, this guy's heart is really big. Wasn't she afraid that the Lord would ignore Xingzun from now on? Wasn't she afraid that Emperor Yan would settle the score later? After waiting for a while, Hei Xinjie finally came out of the tent. She stretched her back before she staggered to the entrance of the temple and began to knock on the door. Lord, it's been a whole night. You should be less angry now, right? I was just using Xingzun as an excuse. Do you have to be so angry? Yun Chujio shouted a few times and footsteps came from inside. Hei Xinjie was delighted. She didn't expect that it was the triangular-eyed guard who came out from Sanjiaoyan. The triangular-eyed guard gloated. Ruhua, the Lord said that you should go where you came from. If you make any more noise outside the temple, the Lord will slap you away. Go wherever you come from. Damn it, she could go wherever she wanted, but unfortunately she could not go back. Xingzun rolled his eyes, stretched his neck and shouted, Hey, Lord, I can help you do what you want to do. Let's talk. There was still no movement inside the temple. Hei Xinjie was angry. It seemed that the Lord was determined to drive her away. Fuck, so be it. If I don't stay here, I'll have my own place to stay. This guy turned around and walked a few steps. After thinking for a while, he still could not do it. If she wanted to return to the immortal Yuan continent, she could only hug the Lord's thigh tightly. Forget it, she could just forget about her integrity and face. Therefore this guy returned to the entrance of the temple and shouted, Xingzun, I was wrong. I shouldn't have only cared about eating and not pouring wine for you yesterday. I shouldn't have used your name to bully others. There was still no movement inside the temple. Hei Xinjie gritted her teeth. Xingzun shouted, My lord, I shouldn't have touched your hand secretly. I swear that I have no ill intentions towards you. I have a fiancé. There was still no movement inside the temple. Hei Xinjie pursed her lips. It seemed that there was really nothing she could do. She couldn't beat Xingzun, so she couldn't force her way in, could she? Forget it, I'll think of another way. Let's leave the palace first. Not long after Hei Xinjie walked out with Buttface, she was stopped by Princess Wang Yu and a group of guards. Take down this bitch. Do you really think you're a phoenix? Bah. You ugly freak is simply causing trouble. Princess Wang Yu said viciously. Scram to the side. Hei Xinjie was fuming in her heart, so she naturally did not have a good expression. Moreover, if she did not chase someone out, how could she let Buttface take over? The triangle-eyed man looked at the guard's little leader for help. The little leader looked as if he was blind. He did not even look at him. Instead he looked up at the sky. Oh, the weather today was just right. The clouds in the sky were really white. San Jiaoyan looked at the sword in Hei Xinjie's hand and left the temple dejectedly. Hei Xinjie pursed her lips and said to the leader, Buttface is my man. He will replace San Jiaoyan in the future. You all better be sensible. I will kill whoever offends me. San Jiaoyan and the others nodded. They were actually quite confused. Where did this red and green couple get their confidence from? Didn't she think that she was too arrogant? Didn't she think that her position was too high? Wasn't she just a palace maid? What right did she have to be so arrogant? What right did she have to be so shameless? Buttface stood behind Hei Xinjie with a complicated look on his face. Although he was seeking death by playing tricks, he had to admit that it felt really good to act cool. After Hei Xinjie acted cool, she sneaked to the door of Xingzun's study and hesitated whether she should go in or not. This guy rolled his eyes and shouted into the room, Xingzun, if there's nothing else, I'll go back to my own room to rest. The guards of the sacred palace cursed in their hearts. Shameless. Which room in the sacred palace is yours? Hei Xinjie also realized this problem. Which room was hers? Before Xingzun could figure it out, he heard the Lord's gloomy voice from the study room. Get in here. Get out of my face. This crazy Lord doesn't seem to know how to speak human language. Hei Xinjie grumbled a little before obediently entering the Xingzun's study. In the study, the Xingzun held a sheepskin scroll in his hand and was flipping through it. He Xingjiu glanced at it and saw that there were 5 words written in the ancient language of the Yen clan: Fallen God Abyss. This fellow's heart skipped a beat. Fallen God Abyss? As the name implied, wasn't that the place where the gods died? If this Xingzun was reading such a book, it meant that he must be a demon. So it was an old demon. He must have some evil idea to be so tolerant of her. Could it be that he knew that she had the Heaven Punisher axe so he didn't fall out with her? That was not right. She had never revealed her cleaver and she had taken a disguise pill. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have recognized her. What was he trying to do? Just when He Xingjiu was puzzled, the Lord placed the sheepskin scroll on the desk and stared at He Xingjiu gloomily. Are you a human? Do you want me to take you out of the Dark Continent? Yun Chujia's heart sank. Since he had already asked, it meant that he had already confirmed it. There was no point in refuting her. He might as well play along. Therefore He Xingjiu said with a smile, Xingzun is indeed Xingzun. That's right, I'm a human. I want to return to the immortal Yuan continent. I wonder if Xingzun can help me? Xingzun curled his lips and remained silent. He just tapped the desk with his fingers, which sounded like he was tapping on He Xingjia's heart. He Xingjia's heart was in a mess. She looked at Xingzun warily and told Xiao Hanyo in her heart that if Xingzun made trouble, she must curse him immediately so that she could escape. Finally, Xingzun stopped tapping the desk and said with a faint smile, It's not impossible to take you to the immortal Yuan continent, but you have to tell me how you came to the Dark Continent. He Xingjiu rolled her eyes. Although the entrance of the miasma area was not important, how could she explain that she was not afraid of the miasma? Therefore the guy said, When we humans were fighting against the Yen clan in the immortal Yuan continent, I was captured. Those people of the Yen clan sacrificed me to their holy beast. The holy beast looked very fierce, and it had 4 vertical pupils that looked like snakes. I was going to die, but I didn't expect to be in the Dark Continent when I woke up. I don't know what exactly happened. Meng Yanshou, who did it offend? Why was the blame placed on its head? She was the one who insisted on barging into the poisonous miasma area, alright? She was the one who risked her life to block the exit of the nightmare air, alright? Shameless. The Lord chuckled after hearing Yun Chujia's words. He Xingjiu could hear the disdain and ridicule in her voice. The little flame in her heart rose up quickly, but this guy was cowardly and did not dare to make a sound. Xingzun did not dare to say anything. The Lord looked at He Xingjiu coldly. Just follow Xingzun. He's so noisy. He Xingjiu, forget it. Bah. A pig's nose and a big green onion. He Xingjiu rolled her eyes and said to Buttface, Buttface, follow me. This guy was afraid that Xingzun would not return to the palace. If he left Buttface here alone, he would definitely die, so it was better to take him away. Xingzun frowned indiscernibly, but he did not say anything and walked out of the temple. After walking for a short while, He Xingjiu said, Lord, aren't we going to ride swords? Are we going to walk? Xingzun looked at her as if she was an idiot. I'm going to the library in the palace. Do I need to ride swords? He Xingjiu, fuck. You lunatic. Why did you call her to the library? If she had known that this lunatic was going to the library, she would have obediently read the storybook in the temple. However, this fellow's eyes suddenly lit up. There might be a good storybook in the Yen clan's library, so there was no harm in going to take a look. Therefore, this fellow said to Buttface, who was behind him, It's none of your business. Go back to the temple. If anyone makes things difficult for you, tell them my name and scare them to death. Buttface was dumbfounded. He thought to himself, telling them your name would probably kill them faster, right? Thinking of this, he quickly ran back to the temple, afraid that he would run into Princess Wang Yu's people. He Xingjiu touched her nose in embarrassment and followed behind Xingzun. Everyone in the palace was stunned. Oh my god, Xingzun actually came out of the temple? Everyone consciously kneeled on the ground, extremely pious. He Xingjiu pursed her lips. What was there to be afraid of about this lunatic? If she didn't still want to use him to return to the immortal Yuan continent, she would have killed him in a minute. Meng Yanshou was so angry that he was amused. Where did she get this confidence from? She even wanted to kill that person? That person could easily turn her into ashes with a wave of his hand. However, that person seemed to be much weaker than before. Could it be that she was injured? However, even if she was much weaker, it would still be a piece of cake for her to kill Hei Xinjiu. This little girl really overestimated herself. How would the nightmare beast know that Hei Xinjiu was purely playing around with herself? Of course, she knew that she could not defeat Xingzun. Otherwise, why would she compromise like this? When Emperor Yan heard his subordinate report that Xingzun had come out of the sacred hall, he hurried over. Xingzun, what are your orders? What do you need me to do? Emperor Yan asked in fear and trepidation. Xingzun stopped but didn't say anything. Instead, he glanced at Hei Xinjiu, who was behind him. General Manager Ji let the Lord and Hei Xinjiu into the library in fear and trepidation. Hei Xinjiu sized them up. The library of the Yan clan's imperial palace wasn't small, but there were pitifully few books. Most likely the books from back then had been brought to the immortal Yuan continent. Hei Xinjiu sized them up as she wondered what this crazy lord was looking for in this library. Xingzun? Is there a book that he needs here? Just as Hei Xinjiu was wondering, Xingzun picked up a book and sat down on the chair next to him to read. Hei Xinjiu was stunned. Could it be that this crazy lord did not have any goal and was just here to read to pass the time? Hei Xinjiu secretly observed for a while. Seeing that Xingzun was concentrating on reading, she also began to pick and choose. This guy specially picked some strange stories and other books to read. When he saw the contents of one of the books, his eyes immediately lit up. Thousand-leaf golden grade lotus. The transformation pill only lacked this herb. He did not expect that the Dark Continent actually had a thousand-leaf golden grade lotus. Hei Xinjiu took a closer look. The contents of the book only briefly introduced the thousand-leaf golden grade lotus and its effects. At the end of the book she wrote, although the thousand-leaf golden grade lotus is only a low-grade heaven-grade lotus, it is extremely rare. It is said that there are thousand-leaf golden grade lotuses growing in the fallen god abyss. Hei Xinjiu was stunned. Fallen god abyss? The deranged Holy Lord had read a book a few days ago called Strange Records of the Fallen God Abyss. She wondered if Xingzun would go there. If he did, she could get some lotus seeds of the thousand-leaf golden grade lotus. Just as Xingzun was thinking about it, he heard the Lord say with slight disdain, "How can there be such a vulgar book in the library of the Nightmare Race's imperial palace?" As he said that, a book was thrown not far away from Hei Xinjiu. Hei Xinjiu subconsciously stretched her neck and took a look. Her eyes immediately lit up when she saw a few big words written on the cover of the book. 72 male concubines of the domineering empress. Initially she did not have much hope. She thought that there would not be such a storybook in the palace library. She did not expect that there would really be one. This fellow glanced at the Lord and saw that the Lord was looking down at the book. This fellow quietly picked up the storybook, then deliberately hid in a corner and began to read it happily. Xingzun looked at Hei Xinjiu with a smile on his face. Needless to say, although the spiritual power of this nightmare race was a little inferior, the standard of this storybook was still pretty good. After Hei Xinjiu finished reading the script, she found that there were several books on the ground beside the Lord. Apparently they were all despised. They were all scripts that Hei Xinjiu liked. Xingzun. Hei Xinjiu blinked her eyes and walked over to pick up the scripts on the ground. When she was about to turn around and read happily, she heard the Lord say in a low voice, "Stop." Hei Xinjiu's heart sank and she said nonchalantly, "Xingzun, since you don't want to read them, they'll put them back for you. I don't think there should be such a vulgar book in the library of the palace, so I'm going to destroy it. I remember that there's another one that was thrown to your side. Hand it over," the Lord said coldly. Hei Xinjiu rolled her eyes and said, "Xingzun, you are absolutely right. It's true that these vulgar books should be destroyed, but you have a body of 10,000 gold. It's a waste to ask you to destroy these books. I'll do it for you." Hei Xinjiu felt that it had been almost a century before Xingzun said coldly, "That's fine. There are still a lot of them over there. Put them away and destroy them when you go out." "Alright, don't worry, I promise not to miss a single book." Hei Xinjiu smiled like a flower as she ran in the direction that Xingzun was pointing at. Xingzun looked at Hei Xinjiu's back, which was as happy as a rabbit. The corners of his mouth curled up as he continued to read the book in his hand. Hei Xingjie was like a little mouse that had fallen into a rice vat. She felt like she was about to faint from the sudden happiness. There were many storybooks that she liked. This guy kept collecting them into his storage ring. He had already thought of a countermeasure. If the Lord asked her to destroy them, she would destroy the storybooks in the storage ring. Anyway, that lunatic wouldn't read them carefully. She was too smart. After collecting the storytelling book, Hei Xingjie hid behind a bookshelf and started to read it happily. In the evening, after they left the library, Hei Xingjie was worried that the Lord would mention the storytelling book. After all, she couldn't bear to destroy the storytelling book that she had collected before. However, the Lord seemed to have forgotten about it and didn't mention it. Instead he said, "We will leave the royal palace of Yen clan tomorrow. You should make some preparations." Hei Xingjie nodded hurriedly and ran back to her room, afraid that the Lord would mention Xing Zun's storybook. The next day after breakfast, the Lord summoned his sword and soared into the sky. Hei Xingjie blinked her eyes and said, "Buttface, ride your sword and fly with me." Buttface asked in confusion, "Little fairy, don't you have a chopping board? Why are you talking so much nonsense? Hurry up. Otherwise we won't be able to catch up." Hei Xingjie wasn't sure what the Lord meant, so she thought it was better not to expose her identity. Hei Xingjie could ride her sword by herself, but this guy was used to sitting on a chopping board. His sword riding skills were terrible and he was lazy. Buttface had to call out his sword, and then he flew into the air with Hei Xingjie, chasing after the Lord in front of Xing Zun. Xing Zun turned around and saw Buttface and Hei Xingjie on the flying sword. He frowned and his face darkened. Buttface and Hei Xingjie, who were whispering to each other, suddenly felt the flying sword tremble violently and fall to the ground. Many onlookers gathered below Xing Zun, who was flying on the flying sword with an infatuated look on their faces. They didn't expect that the flying sword behind Xing Zun would fall to the ground. They were all shocked. "Io, what the hell are those two at the back? Why did they fall from the sky? Isn't it simple?" They must have been convinced by Xing Zun's charm, so they forgot how to ride a sword. "Those two are really stupid. This is the first time I've seen someone fall from a flying sword." Hei Xingjie, who was bitten by a dog, gnashed her teeth in anger. She didn't believe that Buttface could have an accident while riding a sword. It must be the work of that crazy Xing Zun. Although he didn't fall, it was too damn embarrassing. Crazy, just you wait. It's never too late for little Gio to take revenge. We'll see. Buttface wanted to cry, but he had no tears. He was too ashamed to see anyone fall from a flying sword. However, the two of them did not have the time to be sad because the Lord was almost gone. If they did not catch up, they would be left behind by Xing Zun. Therefore, Buttface once again rode his sword and quickly chased after Xing Zun. Hei Xingjie stared at Xing Zun's back and cursed non-stop. Of course, Xing Zun did not make a sound. While he was cursing, he realized that his body had moved from Buttface's flying sword to Xing Zun's flying sword. This guy's heart sank. Could he have been discovered? Hei Xingjie realized that her worries were unnecessary because the Lord did not say anything. It seemed that he only asked her to change her flying tool. At first she did not feel anything, but as time passed she felt a little uncomfortable. Because the sword of the Lord was not particularly broad, the distance between the two was very close. She could even feel the hot breath of the Lord brushing past her ear. She felt inexplicably ambiguous. "Well, Xing Zun, I'd better go with Buttface. I won't trouble you," Hei Xingjie said. Xing Zun just looked at her coldly. "Either stay here or don't follow me." Hei Xingjie felt that this sentence was very similar to the pretty boy's "die or get lost." Was there really such a similar person in this world? Hei Xingjie's gaze fell on Xing Zun's right hand. She would definitely find an opportunity to verify it. Hei Xingjie had no choice but to continue to stay on Xing Zun's flying sword. Buttface, who was behind them, looked at the back view of the two. He thought to himself, why does this Xing Zun and the bad news bag look so compatible? Moreover, it seemed like they were a couple. His eyes must be playing tricks on him. The Lord was probably just looking for a maid. Although the bad news bag was good-looking, she looked like an ordinary person now. How could the Lord like her? After flying for half a day, Hei Xingjie finally realized what was going on. Was she stupid? The chopping board was afraid of being exposed. She could totally summon a flying spiritual device. Therefore, Xing Zun quickly said, "My lord, it's too hard for you to ride the sword. Let's ride the flying spirit tool. Xingzun looked at her as if he was looking at an idiot. Flying spirit tools cannot fly in the dark continent. Otherwise, do you think I'm as stupid as you? Hey Xingjiu, fuck, I can't talk properly anymore. Crazy. Hey Xingjiu comforted herself and thought that it was a pig behind her. What could humans have with a pig? Yes, that's right, there was a pig behind her. Hey Xingjiu immediately began to imagine that the lord with a pig's head could not help but giggle. Xingzun frowned and asked coldly, "What are you laughing at?" Ha. Ha. Nothing, I just thought of something funny. It has nothing to do with you, ha. Hey Xingjiu laughed until she covered her stomach. The lord frowned even more. For some reason he felt that Hey Xingjiu was laughing at him. But what was so funny about him? Buttface saw that the two of them were talking and laughing. For some reason he felt that he was unnecessary. But for the sake of his life, it was better for him to follow them. Otherwise Princess Wang Yu would not forgive him. After a series of self-hints, Hey Xingjiu immediately threw the uneasiness to the back of her mind. After all, she was only pretending to be a gigolo. As long as she was doing the right thing, she would not feel guilty. Therefore this guy took out a spirit fruit and started munching on it. He leisurely enjoyed the scenery around him and treated it as a free ride on a sightseeing bus. Well, there was also a pig-headed driver behind him. Seeing Hey Xingjiu eating the fruit and enjoying the scenery, the lord's eyes flashed with a faint light. The flying sword suddenly jolted. Hey Xingjiu was caught off guard and almost fell off the flying sword. She only felt her waist tighten, so she was hugged by the lord. Xingzun. Hey Xingjiu's heart palpitated. Just when she was about to break free, the lord had already let go of her hand and said coldly, "You're really stupid. Do you want to fall again?" Hearing the lord's words, Hey Xingjiu did not take it to heart. After all, even though the lord looked like a lunatic, at least he did not look like a coyote. However, in the following period of time, the flying sword would bump every once in a while. Every time the lord would reach out and grab her waist. Xingzun felt that something was wrong. She turned around and glared at Xingzun. "Xingzun, although I have a favor to ask of you, my heart belongs to someone else. Don't touch your claws everywhere or else I'll be chopped off by you accidentally." Xingzun raised his eyebrows and sneered. "You're really overthinking things. I'm just afraid that you'll fall down. Since you're so suspicious, I won't care about you anymore." Hey Xingjiu saw that Xingzun's eyes did not have a trace of guilt. He was suspicious. Was she really thinking too much? Xingzun did not have any other intentions? Just as Hey Xingjiu was thinking about this, the flying sword started to shake again. This time Xingzun did not make a move. Hey Xingjiu fell down from the flying sword sadly. Hey Xingjiu was about to summon the chopping board when the Xingzun's flying sword suddenly appeared beside her. Xingzun raised his hand and pulled her by her collar to pick her up. Xingzun did not say anything, he just snorted coldly. Hey Xingjiu felt a little guilty. Did she really blame him wrongly? However, this guy quickly reacted. Bullshit. He could control the flying sword so skillfully, how could he make the flying sword bounce frequently? What bad idea was he thinking? Yun Chuju did not think that she had such a great charm to make the lord fall in love with her. There must be a conspiracy. Thus Hey Xingjia's impression of Xingzun became even worse. She felt even more conflicted. She made up her mind that once she returned to the immortal Yuan continent, she would stay far away from him. The rest of the journey went smoothly. Xingzun was like a perfect statue standing motionlessly behind Yun Chujiu. At first Hey Xingjiu was still on guard, but when she saw that Xingzun didn't do anything else, she relaxed and took out a spirit fruit to continue chewing. However, it was fine at the beginning when she was on the flying sword. After standing for a long time, she was inevitably a little tired. Hey Xingjiu stretched her arms, legs and waist. Just as she was about to take out her chopping board, Xingzun landed on the ground on his sword, followed by Buttface. They landed in a bustling town. Hey Xingjiu was puzzled. Why did this lunatic suddenly land? Was he looking for a place to eat? However, with his appearance it was easy to cause a commotion, okay? As expected, almost in an instant the entire street was filled with screams. Xingzun. Xingzun is here. Oh my god. I'm going to faint from happiness. I actually saw a living Xingzun. Quick, hurry up and call the second and third girls over. Maybe Xingzun has taken a fancy to them. He Xinjia's mouth twitched. These people were even more fanatic than hardcore fans. Wasn't he just a lunatic? Was there a need to be so excited? The Lord was obviously used to this kind of situation. As if he hadn't seen Xingzun, he stepped into a carriage store. He Xinjia was puzzled. What was this Lord doing in a carriage store? I want 8 black-horned horses and 2 carriages, the best, Xingzun said lightly. Although the Lord was holding a book in his hand, his gaze was completely focused on He Xinjia. For a moment, there was only the sound of bubbling water boiling in the carriage. Lord, have a taste of my skills, He Xinjia said proudly. Her skills were inherited from the wife of the hall master, so she felt that they were not bad. The Lord raised his teacup and drank a few mouthfuls, then nodded. You are not too useless, you can barely drink it. He Xinjia really wanted to shout at the Lord. Damn it, spit it out for me. She was struck by lightning. Boom. A bolt of lightning struck the carriage. Buttface and the black-horned horses were scared out of their wits, but the bolt of lightning stopped less than 3 feet away from the carriage. After the carriage passed by, it struck the ground. He Xinjia's face was filled with shock and astonishment, but her heart was bursting with joy. Oh my God. Once or twice was a coincidence, this was already the 3rd time. It was definitely not a coincidence. Could it be that she had unlocked a new skill? In the future, all she had to do was open her mouth and summon the heavenly lightning? This fellow could not wait to chant in his heart, baby heavenly lightning, quickly, quickly strike down. Chop it down towards that pretentious Xingzun, chop him to death. However, there was no movement at all. This fellow thought about it for a moment, and it seemed like what she said was that pretentious Xingzun would be struck by lightning. Thus she fiercely shouted in her heart, pretentious Xingzun would be struck by lightning. There was still no reaction. He Xinjia didn't give up. She shouted in her heart a few more times, but there was still no reaction. This fellow was so discouraged. It turned out that she was thinking too much. That's right. Xiao Hanio's innate instinct wasn't a crow, so where did she get a crow's mouth? Xiao Hanio in the spirit beast pouch. Tui. I'm not a crow, okay? I'm a black phoenix. He Xinjia hung her head low for a while. She suddenly remembered that the Lord had said that if she performed well in the tea ceremony, she would not be mistreated. This fellow immediately became energetic. Damn it, this carriage and the black-horned horse had cost her a lot of nightmare stones. She could take this opportunity to blackmail them back. Therefore Xingzun smiled like a flower. Lord, you promised to give me a reward. What kind of reward is it? I've already given you a reward, which is to allow you to stay in the carriage. Otherwise, a maid like you should be sitting outside with butt-face, the Lord said with a smile as he leaned against the wall of the carriage. He Xinjia, she really wanted to strangle this lunatic to death. He Xinjia really wanted to splash the pot of boiling tea on Xingzun's face. It was too fucking bullying. She bought the carriage, he bought the black-horned horse, and even the coachman Buttface was under her command. In the end, it was this big-tailed wolf who showed Mercy that she could stay in the carriage? Xingzun looked at He Xinjia. He said indifferently, "What? I think you mean that you don't seem to be willing to stay in the carriage and prefer to stay outside? I don't like to force others. If you don't want to, no, I'm willing. I'm 100% willing. Come, continue drinking your tea," He Xinjia said politely. "Burn you to death. Crazy. Why should she go outside? This was her carriage, hers." For a few days He Xinjia was so insulted by the Lord that she wanted to hit the wall. He Xinjia did not feel that the black-hearted wolf in front of her had any similarities with Di Biming. The pretty boy was arrogant, but he was definitely not as black-bellied as this crazy. This guy was simply eating people without spitting out their bones. That morning when He Xinjia woke up, she saw the Lord looking at her with a faint smile on Xingzun's face. He Xinjia's heart sank. What did this psycho mean? Did she talk nonsense last night? What did she say that she shouldn't have said? When He Xinjia was washing up, she finally realized why the Lord had that expression on Xingzun's face. The effect of the transfiguration pill had reached its limit, and her appearance had already recovered. This fellow was a little flustered at first, but after thinking for a while she thought, fuck, since it's already like this, I can do whatever I want. The Lord did not ask her why her appearance had changed. He just criticized her as usual, as if he felt that this was one of the great joys of life. Hei Xinjie was still jumping up and down in anger at first, but she had already become numb to it. If you want to say it, just say it. Wasn't it just a little embarrassing? It's not like I've never been embarrassed before. I'm just shameless. Bite me. Humph. After walking for about half a month, there was nowhere to go. Xingzun, Buttface said carefully, there is a forest in front of us. The black-horned horse cannot enter. Xingzun got off the carriage and put the black-horned horse and the carriage into his storage ring. His movements were very natural. Hei Xinjie curled her lips. Shameless. That was clearly her horse and her carriage. The Lord glanced at Yunchujio. He was clearly in a good mood. It's forbidden to fly here. Let's walk. Hei Xinjie and Buttface could only follow behind the Lord. Hei Xinjie originally thought that they would encounter some nightmare beasts in the forest. However, they didn't even encounter a nightmare beast, let alone an attack. Xingzun blinked his eyes and had an epiphany. The demon beasts must have been scared away by Xingzun's mental pressure. Xingzun went up to Xingzun and asked, Xingzun, I want to interview you. Isn't it great to be invincible? Xingzun was stunned for a moment before he smiled bitterly. It would be great if you are invincible. Of course, if I were to compete with you, I would be invincible because you are too useless. Hei Xinjie, damn it, if you don't talk back to me, will you die? However, this fellow was obviously numb to being talked back to. He then asked, where are we going now? Are we going to the fallen god abyss? Xingzun rarely did not talk back to her. He nodded and said, yes, but not us, but me. When we reach the vicinity of the fallen god abyss, you can wait outside. I will go in and get some things. I'll go too. I want to go in and look for the 1,000-leaf golden grade lotus. I promise to be obedient and won't hinder you, Hei Xinjie said in a flattering manner. Xingzun hesitated for a moment and said, all right, you can go in with me. However, you must listen to me. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. Hei Xinjie thanked him profusely. That was great. With the 1,000-leaf golden grade lotus, she could refine the disguise pill. The forest was very big. After walking for 10 days, the three of them found that there was a large lake in front of them. It was azure blue and so beautiful that it made one's heart palpitate. Hei Xinjie could not help but exclaim in admiration, it's so beautiful. Is this the fallen god abyss? I didn't expect that the name is not good, but the scenery is so beautiful. Just as Hei Xinjie was sighing, the Lord said to Buttface, if you stand in the lake, the nightmare beasts will not attack you. Xingzun said, if you stand in the lake, the nightmare beasts will not attack you. After saying that, the Lord grabbed Hei Xinjie's hand and jumped into the lake. Just as Hei Xinjie was about to break free from the Lord's hand, the Lord said in a low voice, if you want to die, you can let go of Xingzun. Hei Xinjie immediately became obedient. It was no big deal. Yunchujio quickly understood what the Lord meant by letting go of Xingzun if she wanted to die. In the middle of the lake was a huge whirlpool filled with wind blades. However, these wind blades could not pose any threat to Xingzun's spiritual energy shield. The two of them were sucked in by the huge suction force. After an unknown period of time, when Hei Xinjie regained her sight, she found Xingzun lying beside her. She did not know whether he had fainted or fallen asleep, but he did not open his eyes. Hei Xinjie panicked for some reason and reached out to push Xingzun. Hey, wake up. What happened to you? Xingzun did not wake up. Yunchujio then realized that Xingzun's lips were pale and dry. Although his face could not be seen through the mask, he must be as pale as a piece of paper. What happened to him? Wasn't he awesome before? Yunchujio called Xingzun a few more times, but Xingzun still showed no signs of waking up. Hei Xinjie didn't dare to feed Xingzun any medicinal pills. It would be bad if it backfired. She didn't want to take the opportunity to kill Xingzun. After all, without Xingzun she wouldn't be able to leave the fallen god abyss, and she wouldn't be able to return to the immortal Yuan continent. Hei Xinjie looked around. Other than many spiritual plants that she had never seen before, this place seemed to be an ordinary valley. Was this the fallen god abyss? Just as He Xinjiu was looking around, she heard Xing Zun make a soft sound. He seemed to be in great pain. She looked down and was surprised to find that Xing Zun's body was covered in a layer of frost. The frost was getting stronger and stronger, almost forming a layer of solid ice. But what was going on? Could this crazy Xing Zun be a spirit carved out of ice? While Yun Chujie was in a daze, Xing Zun's body had already formed a layer of solid ice. This guy took out a rolling pin and started to hit the solid ice on Xing Zun's body. This guy could not help but be secretly happy. This was similar to hitting a frozen fish. He Xinjiu suddenly frowned. Wasn't this Xing Zun a fire spirit root? Why was he surrounded by solid ice? She picked up Xing Zun's right hand and looked at it carefully. There were still no patterns on it. This guy sighed. Was he really not a gigolo? Although she thought that this Xing Zun was too black-bellied. It didn't seem like Di Biming's personality at all, but her sixth sense told her that this person was Di Biming. Otherwise, she wouldn't feel at ease to be alone with a man in the carriage. He Xinjiu felt that she was about to become mentally ill. How could she prove that he was a gigolo? He Xinjiu looked at Xing Zun's lips and had an idea. Fuck, wouldn't she know after a kiss? Although she was not sure what Di Biming's lips looked like, she still knew how to feel them. After all, she had kissed him countless times. Therefore this guy leaned over to the face of Xing Zun. At this moment Xing Zun opened his eyes. Hey Xinjiu, what should I do if I'm found out that I'm kissing a man? She was waiting online and it was quite urgent. You actually took advantage of the situation and wanted to take advantage of me? If you want to kiss me, just say it. Why do you have to be so sneaky? Do you like this tone? Although Xing Zun spoke weakly, his tone was still very annoying. He Xinjia's thick skin that had been thick for thousands of years turned red. After some psychological preparation she said, I don't want to kiss you. She said righteously, Bah. Who wants to kiss you? I want to see what's wrong with you. Why don't we observe you to confirm the diagnosis? By the way, what's wrong with you? Xing Zun smiled bitterly. I didn't expect that my old wounds would recur at this critical moment. I'm afraid that we won't be able to live. I told you to stay on top but you didn't. Now do you regret it? Yun Chujie knocked the ice on Xing Zun's body while saying, Why should I die? Even the god won't accept a disaster like me. However, according to you, is it very dangerous in here? Xing Zun nodded with difficulty. Let's find a place to stay first. Otherwise, I will drag you down when we are in danger. Yun Chujie had no choice but to carry Xing Zun on her back and walk forward. Xing Zun's body was so cold that He Xinjiu felt like she was carrying a huge block of ice on her back. It was not easy to find a cave. Yun Chujie quickly lit a bonfire in the cave, hoping to slow down Xing Zun's freezing speed. However, it was useless. Xing Zun's body was still freezing. He Xinjiu knocked on the ground with the rolling pin as she asked the Lord, Aren't you a fire spiritual root? Can't you use your spiritual power to dissolve the ice? Xing Zun asked. Xing Zun did not answer Yun Chujie's question. Instead he said, If you will die here, what is your wish? Yun Chujie glared at Xing Zun. Ba 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 ba. I will not die. I still want to have a baby with my gigolo. I still want to find my chi-chi. Xing Zun's eyes flashed with pain. What if your fiancé dies? Shut up. Yun Chujie hammered Xing Zun with the rolling pin in her hand. The pretty boy will not die. You will die if he dies. Xing Zun did not even have the strength to dodge, so he could only let He Xinjiu pound him. He sighed and said, I mean, if he dies, what will happen to you? If he dies, so be it. Do I have to die with him? He is not the only crooked tree in this world. I will find someone else to marry. It is not easy to find a three-legged toad. There are plenty of people with two legs, He Xinjiu said indifferently. A hint of cunningness flashed in her lowered eyes. The Lord was instantly stunned. He looked at Yun Chujie with a complicated expression and said, Good, well said. He Xinjiu looked at Xing Zun with a smile and said, I think you are quite good. Why don't I just make do with you? We are going to die anyway, so don't waste time. Come, let me help you take off your clothes. Xing Zun's eyes flashed with anger. You are shameless. Shameless? I have more shameless things. Come, don't be shy. You're going to be frozen into ice anyway. Let me hug you. Maybe I will melt your ice with my passion. He Xingjiu went to untie Xingzun's clothes as she said that. Xingzun snorted in his heart. Little girl, I must force you to tell me the truth. I couldn't defeat you before, but now I have 100 ways to make you tell me the truth. Xingzun was obviously going to be frozen to death, but he was sweating profusely. Of course, his sweat turned into ice immediately. Xingzun saw that He Xingjiu was going to be serious, so he gritted his teeth and said, Stop? Stop? Why should I stop? I want to do something shameful with you now. Although it's inconvenient for you to wear this mask, it's okay. As long as you have a good figure, I don't mind. He Xingjiu said and deliberately glanced there. Xingzun was so angry that the veins on his forehead popped up. Little Jiu, stop. Little Jiu? You're calling me by my nickname? This means that you're still very willing. Come on, this fallen god abyss will be our new house. Today will be our wedding night. He Xingjiu stretched out her claws and began to untie Xingzun's clothes. As she did so, she said, Don't be nervous, my fiancé is a fool. He won't find out about us. Even if he does, since you're so powerful, just kill him. Anyway, I've been displeased with that arrogant guy for a long time. Xingzun roared angrily. Hey Dong, shut up. Xingzun, you're really my lover. You even know my nickname? This is really fate. Let's hurry up and finish the job before you die. He Xingjiu said slyly. Xingzun sighed dejectedly. Little Jiu, stop fooling around. He Xingjiu stood up abruptly, her eyes reddened. Stop fooling around? Is it fun to play with me? Do you think it's fun to play with me as a fool? Do you think it's fun to play with me? What do you take me for? Xingzun immediately panicked. He gritted his teeth and said, Little Jiu, this matter is indeed my fault. At the beginning, I was angry that you didn't listen to me and participated in the Yen clan's matter, so I planned to teach you a lesson. However, later on, I discovered that my old illness was showing signs of acting up, so I planned to hide it from you. After I brought you back to the immortal Yuan continent, I would find a reason to break up with you. This way my death wouldn't make you too sad. Yun Chujio sneered, Hide it from me? Haven't you kept a lot of things from me? You lied to me in the name of my own good. Do you think I will accept your favor? Just wait for your death here. I don't want to see you for even a quarter of an hour. Xingzun said dejectedly, It's okay if you blame me, but this place is full of dangers. You should stay here. I will protect you no matter what. Bah. I don't care. He Xingjiu said angrily and left the cave. Xingzun wanted to stop her, but his body was covered with a layer of ice and he couldn't move at all. Xingzun, who was also debeaming, was filled with regret and regret. He regretted that he shouldn't have been in a hurry to break another seal. If this seal hadn't been broken, his old illness wouldn't have flared up. He hated that up until now only a small part of his seal had been removed. Many things were still confusing. He did not even know who his real enemy was. Now he had dragged the person he loved into a dangerous situation. There was no way he could protect her. He simply did not deserve to be a man. If he had known that his old illness would flare up so quickly, he would have chased her away from the palace instead of calling her back. The ice on Beiming's body was getting thicker and thicker. It was as if even his thoughts were frozen. In his daze he saw Yun Chujio return. When Beiming regained consciousness again, he realized that although his body was still very cold, the speed of the ice forming was much slower than before. His body was wrapped in countless layers of the nine-tailed fox's fur, just like a dumpling. There were several bonfires in the cave. One of the bonfires was still roasting meat, but there was no one there. Beiming's heart stopped. Where was little Nine? Beiming wanted to stand up, but he did not have any strength on his body. Furthermore, his body was wrapped in layers of fox fur. After struggling for a long time, he only managed to move forward a little. What was even more tragic was that because of his struggle, sparks splashed onto the nine-tailed fox's fur. Instantly, the cave was filled with the smell of burning. Beiming had no spiritual power now. He could only watch as the flames began to spread rapidly. He smiled bitterly. Was this retribution? However, it was also good. If he died like this, he would not drag little Jiu down. A certain someone was kicked so hard that he didn't even have a bit of temper. This was probably the retribution he got for bullying her a few days ago. He had brought this upon himself. After Hei Shinjio kicked a certain someone away, she glared at him fiercely again, but she still cut off the fur that was burnt by the fire. This is all money. You have to compensate me. The carriage and the black-horned horse are also mine. Hei Shinjio said angrily. Di Baiming laughed bitterly. What's mine is all yours. Unfortunately, I don't have any spiritual power now, so I can't give it to you even if I wanted to. Just wait until I die and take the storage ring away. Everything inside is yours. Hei Xinjia's eyes reddened. She bit her lips and said fiercely, You bastard. Di Baiming was dumbfounded by the scolding. He was stingy and scolded him. Why was he scolded for giving all the money to her now? Yun Chujio kicked Di Baiming a few more times and then ignored him. Little Jiu, how did I offend you again? Di Baiming asked tentatively. Hei Shinjio acted as if she didn't hear him and didn't say anything. Little Jiu, it's my fault for lying to you. You can hit or scold me if you want. Hei Shinjio remained silent. Little Jiu, I'll tell you what you want to know. Don't be angry. Pandi N0 Vel. Calm. Hei Shinjio turned her head angrily. What happened to the mask on your face? And how did your palm lines disappear? Aren't you an ice spirit root? How did you become a fire spirit root? The mask is an immortal artifact. Unless the person wants to take it off, no one can take it off. However, I don't have any spiritual power now, so I can't take it off. The disappearance of the palm print is just a small trick. If you want to learn it, I can teach you. As for the spiritual root, I have always had an ice spiritual root. The black flame is the fire of ice. When the ice spiritual root reaches a certain level, it can release the fire of ice. What about the Lord of the Nightmare race? Hei Shinjio curled her lips. So all of this was because she was inexperienced? Qingzun thought. Damn it, she felt inexplicably ignorant. After I unsealed another layer of the seal, I gained some memories. I vaguely remember that I used to be the Lord of the Yen clan, and there was something very important to me in the fallen god abyss. That's why I entered the Dark Continent from another entrance, Di Baiming said. Hei Shinjio frowned. If that's the case, why did you stay in the Yen clan's imperial palace for so long? Could it be that you were waiting for Princess Wang Yu to curry favor with you? Di Baiming looked at Hei Shinjio speechlessly. Little Jiu, is that idiot worthy of your jealousy? Pui. Who's jealous of you? I'm just asking. Don't interrupt. Answer the question honestly. Hei Shinjio shouted with a stern expression but a timid voice. The fallen god abyss only appears on certain days. Hei Shinjio looked at Di Baiming in disdain. How are you going to retrieve something if you don't even know what it is? I think you are getting more and more stupid. A certain someone felt guilty and did not dare to retort even though he was being called stupid. Instead he echoed, You are right. I am indeed getting more and more stupid. I should not have brought you to the fallen god abyss and dragged you down instead. When Yun Chujio heard Di Baiming's words, she moved closer to Di Baiming and stared at him closely. She was getting closer and closer. A certain someone could even count how many eyelashes Hei Shinjio had. A certain someone's heart palpitated. Could it be that little Jiu wanted to kiss him? Was she not angry anymore? The tip of a certain someone's ears could not help but turn red. A faint anticipation rose in his heart. Previously he was afraid of being exposed and did not dare to have any thoughts. Now that the truth was out, he was naturally filled with joy to be able to kiss his sweetheart. Unexpectedly, Hei Xinjia's target was clearly not his lips but his neck. Hei Shinjio bit the man's neck hard and the man grimaced in pain. However, he felt guilty and could only grit his teeth and endure it. He even said, Bite. As long as you can vent your anger, it's fine. Just don't clench your teeth or else my heart will ache. Hei Shinjio, holy shit. The gigolo seemed to have become black-bellied after the seal was lifted this time. How could she continue biting him when he said that? Hei Shinjio let go of her mouth and snorted coldly. Gigolo, I'm telling you seriously. Listen carefully. I'm not afraid of being implicated and you shouldn't make decisions on my behalf. If you treat me as your fiancé, tell me everything and let me make my own decisions. Just because you think you're good to me doesn't mean you're good to me, you idiot. If a certain someone had heard Hei Shinjio calling him a gigolo and an idiot, he would have exploded. But now he felt guilty and could only say with a smile, "You're right. Everything you say is right. It's all my fault." Hey Shinjio, fuck. The gigolo who had unlocked a new skill seemed to be very difficult to deal with. Di Baiming saw a wound on Yun Chujia's arm from the corner of his eye. Although the wound was no longer bleeding, he could still tell that it was cut by a sharp weapon not long ago. Di Baiming's heart ached and his voice trembled. "Little Jiu, did you feed me your blood again?" "Humph. I was waiting for you to be my slave. Of course I can't let you die so easily." Hey Shinjio said stubbornly. Di Baiming had 1,000 words in his heart, but he didn't know what to say. He just looked at Yun Chujio with an expression. Hey Shinjio felt a little uncomfortable under Di Baiming's burning gaze. She changed the topic and said, "You said it's very dangerous here. What exactly is the danger?" Di Baiming then retracted his gaze and said, "I'm not too sure about the specific danger. In short, it's a very dangerous feeling. We should be careful. If we encounter danger, Di Baiming originally wanted to say that if he encountered danger he would not let Yun Chujio care about him. He would just run for his life. However, when he recalled what Yun Chujio said earlier, he swallowed the rest of his words. He changed his words. "If you are in danger you must be careful." Hey Shinjio nodded and took out hot porridge from her storage ring and fed it to Di Baiming. Of course he did not forget to take revenge during the feeding process. "You are so stupid. You can make porridge everywhere. Are you stupid? Do you know the etiquette of eating? Don't you know that you can't make a sound when you are eating porridge? What a waste." Hey Shinjio was stunned. What the hell went to her dantian? While she was still in a daze, she was surprised to find that Di Baiming's condition was obviously better. Could it be that the thing that caused the gigolo had jumped into her body? Di Baiming also felt that something had jumped out of his body recently. The two of them stared at each other, feeling that this world was really wonderful. Di Baiming was the first to react. "Little Jiu, quick, take a look inside and see what's going on." Yun Chujio heard him and started to look inside. She saw that the Guai Chao in her dantian was holding something and chewing on it. Yun Chujio did not see what it was, but it should be a living thing. Because it kept struggling, the Guai Chao's leaves tightly controlled it. In the end, it entered the Guai Chao's stomach. Yun Chujio told Di Baiming about what she saw. Di Baiming did not speak for a long time. He thought that he would definitely die this time. He did not expect that there would be a turn for the better. However, it was clear that there was more than one in his body. Although his condition was better, it was still very cold. It was just that the hard ice had become thinner. Hey Shinjio blinked her eyes. "Gigolo, come, let's continue. I'll help you get the rest out." Before Di Baiming could react to what Hey Shinjio meant, Hey Shinjio pounced on him. She gnawed and bit him with all her might. Di Baiming was like a little sheep now. He was no match for Hey Shinjio, the big-tailed wolf. He could only be manipulated by her. However, the things in Di Baiming's body might have already known that Hey Shinjio was not to be trifled with, so the rest of them did not jump out. Hey Shinjio touched her swollen lips and cursed, "Damn it. You actually learned how to be smart. I'll get you all out sooner or later. If you don't want to die, behave yourself. These are my men. If you continue to torment them, I'll kill you." Di Baiming could not help but smile bitterly. It's useless to scold them. They won't listen to your threats. Before Di Baiming could finish his words, he felt that his body had become much more comfortable. The layer of ice on his body had still turned into frost. Although he could not use his spiritual power, it was much better than before. Di Baiming, it seemed that not only were evil spirits afraid of evil people, many things were afraid of evil people. Hey Shinjio also noticed that Di Baiming's condition had improved a lot. She suddenly did not know how to show off. "Ha, pretty boy, how is it? I asked if you are convinced. You still want to chase me away? And you don't want to bring me in? If it weren't for me you would be dead? And your lucky star. Treat me well in the future, do you hear me? Little Gio, aren't you sleepy? Go to sleep. I'm sleepy." After saying that, Di Baiming closed his eyes because he had a premonition that if he didn't do that, Hey Shinjio would definitely give him a long lecture. Hey Shinjio curled her lips. Anyway, the pretty boy's little tail was in her hands, so she had plenty of time to deal with him. There was no hurry, there was still plenty of time in the future. Since Di Biming's condition was better, He Xinjiu put on her coat again and wrapped Di Biming in the nine-tailed fox's fur. Then she yawned and fell asleep on the ground. As for the vigilance, He Xinjiu let out a few silly cubs and let them keep an eye on the outside. Meng Yanshou stared at Di Biming and Yun Chujie with his red rabbit eyes. His heart was filled with curiosity. Oh, that black-hearted little girl's fiancé was really the Lord? Who would have thought that the Lord would take a fancy to this little girl? Her taste was very unique. However, this little girl was also a little strange. Could she be the reincarnation of some big shot? Just as the nightmare beast was pondering over He Xinjiu, Xiao Hanyo pointed at it with its short wings and said, "Curly hair, you're the youngest, so you're the only one on duty today. We're going to sleep." Meng Yanshou said the nightmare beast was so angry that it gritted its teeth. If it wasn't for the fact that its shell wasn't strong enough, it would have plucked this fat bird into a bald chicken no matter what. It was too infuriating. Xiao Hong and the red fox also glared at Meng Yanshou with the same hatred. How could a non-contract beast compete with them for the pet? Dream on. Meng Yanshou was a down-and-out phoenix that was inferior to a chicken. He could only lower his head and stand guard at the entrance of the cave. However, this guy also had a good way to kill time. Read the script. Meng Yanshou lay at the entrance of the cave and read the script while paying attention to the movements outside. As he watched, he became fascinated. By the time he realized that something was wrong, his entire body had been stomped into pieces. Meng Yanshou floated out from under its huge hooves and cried out, "Oh no! There's a monster! Damn it, this is the first time I've opened my shell. I'm so aggrieved." Yun Chujie, Di Biming and Dumb Meng were awakened by the cries of Meng Yanshou. They saw that the entrance of the cave was tightly blocked. Apparently, the thing outside was too big and only one leg had reached in. A fierce roar was heard. The nightmare beast floated to He Xinjia's side. "Master, quick, give me a powerful demonic beast to drive its shell. I want to take revenge." Meng Yanshou said. He Xinjiu glanced at it and then released a violent boar. "This is the one with the highest spiritual power in my place. You can use this." He Xinjiu did not forget that the nightmare beast had said that if the Lord was her pretty boy, it would choose a boar to drive its shell. However, Meng Yanshou had said that if the Lord was her pretty boy, it would choose a boar to drive its shell. Meng Yanshou glanced at the violent boar and curled his lips. "I'd better choose a rabbit." Thus, Meng Yanshou once again turned into a wind-blade rabbit. The thing outside was obviously eager to enter, so it used its body to hit the hole, wanting to use brute force to expand the hole and then enter. Yun Chujie curled her lips. "Are you the only one who's grown up? Release De Hua and you'll be scared to death." Therefore, the thing released a group of piglets with spiritual power and pounced on the thing. The thing had probably never seen such a strange spiritual beast, so it subconsciously took a few steps back. He Xinjiu lay on the ground and looked out. It was a giant beast with a strange appearance. It looked like a cow but also like a tiger. It was probably an ancient demonic beast, which was why it was not recorded in the ancient books. Meng Yanshou said from the side, "I know this thing. This is a bull-lion beast. Although it was not a powerful creature in the ancient times, it is still very difficult to deal with outside now. Fortunately, it only has a strong body and does not have any spiritual attack methods." Meng Yanshou sized up Yun Chujie and said proudly, "However, with your small body and those trash combined, you are not a match for the bull-lion beast. Do you need me to weave a dream for it?" Yun Chujie glanced at Meng Yanshou and said, "Get lost and stay away. I think you are the most trash." Meng Yanshou was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Xiao Hanyo and the others were gloating at the side. They deserved it. "You still want to pretend to be a big clove in front of Blackheart's master? I won't kill you." Meng Yanshou cursed in his heart. "You guys can keep gloating. Won't you still have to beg me to make a move later?" Humph. At this moment, He Xinjiu had already reached the entrance of the cave. Since the bull-lion beast didn't have any spiritual power attack methods, he wasn't afraid of being ambushed by it. The bull-lion beast looked at the few piglets with spiritual power on its legs with a look of confusion and disdain. Were humans so weak now? The spiritual power materialized was actually a pig? And a piglet? Hey, you mixed breed of neither bull nor tiger. I'm warning you, get lost quickly. Or else I'll kill you. Hei Shinjio leaned against the entrance of the cave and said fiercely. Bull lion beast, half-breed? Wasn't it a half-breed for short? This smelly girl's mouth was too mean. She simply cursed the beast without any swear words. She was a smelly girl at the 6th level of the Lingxian realm and she actually threatened it? Was she crazy? When Yun Chujio had just arrived at the Dark Continent, she had already adjusted the level of her spirit energy to the 6th level of the Lingxian realm. This guy was listless and evil. When it was time to show off, it was better to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger. Bull lion beast. The bull lion beast roared and its eyes were full of disdain. Its long fur trembled, and the piglets of spiritual power fell to the ground one after another. They dimmed as if they were going to dissipate at any moment. The bull lion beast raised its leg and stepped on Hei Shinjio, who jumped into the cave with a whoosh. It grinned at the bull lion beast and said, "You hybrid, if you have the ability, why don't you come in? What's the use of growing so big? Trash. Idiot." The bull lion beast was about to explode in anger. Its roar was deafening. The nightmare beast stared at the rabbit and curled its 3-petal mouth. This little girl was simply courting death. If she hadn't angered the bull lion beast, it would have been able to hold on for a little longer. Now that the bull lion beast was enraged, perhaps the bull lion beast wouldn't care about living or dying anymore and would directly bury them alive inside. This little girl might come and beg it right away. When that time came, it would definitely taunt and ridicule her so that she would learn a lesson, so that she would not have to teach it a lesson all the time. Di Baiming looked at Hei Shinjio with some worry and Hei Shinjio smiled at him. "Beauty, don't worry, I will definitely protect you." Di Baiming, if not for his guilt, Di Baiming really wanted to teach the smug Hei Shinjio a lesson. Unfortunately, it wasn't just a matter of guilt. Right now he had the heart but not the strength. It was uncertain who would teach who a lesson. At this moment, the bull lion beast outside the cave had gone mad with anger. Just as it was about to use the giant horn on its head to collapse the cave, it realized that its tail was being pulled by something. Its body couldn't help but retreat. The bull lion beast turned around with a terrified expression. It saw a huge purple pig using its hooves to pull its tail. Its eyes were filled with disdain and ridicule. The bull lion beast was a little dumbfounded. This thing was a spiritual beast? A huge purple pig? The pig had turned into a spirit? The 2 rabbit eyes of the nightmare beast Meng Yanshou were dumbfounded. Holy shit. No wonder the black-hearted little girl was fearless. Her spiritual beast was actually this thing? Although it was a little weak now, it would be a big deal in the future. No wonder the Lord and her son of bitch saw eye to eye with Xing Zun. It seemed that this little girl was really not simple. Meng Yanshou decided to be obedient in the future. Whether it was the Lord or this little girl, it could not afford to offend them. If it was obedient, it might be able to return to its original form very soon. After the initial confusion, the bull lion beast came back to its senses and shook its tail vigorously, trying to shake De Hua off. But, it didn't shake. This was awkward. The bull lion beast couldn't shake De Hua off and it couldn't reach its tail, so it could only spin in circles and roar in anger. After a while, De Hua dissipated. The bull lion beast was instantly delighted. Haha, it almost forgot that although this damn giant pig was difficult to deal with, it was only a spiritual beast after all. It would disappear very soon. What was it afraid of? At this moment, a group of spiritual piglets pounced out from the cave. The bull lion beast immediately vented its anger on these piglets, using its horns and hooves to step on them. The piglets with spiritual power quickly turned extremely dim. Before the bull lion beast could be happy, its tail was grabbed by something again. The bull lion beast turned around and saw that it was the giant purple pig again. What the hell was going on? Where did it come from? Obviously, the bull lion beast had never seen such a strange transformation method of a spiritual power beast. Therefore it was a little confused and did not know what to do. It even suspected that there was a person hiding behind it who specifically ambushed it. The bull lion beast once again circled around in the same spot. It was so angry that it could not take it anymore. However, Hei Shinju just happened to be making sarcastic remarks at the entrance of the cave. "Hey hybrid breed, I told you were stupid. How could you not reach your own tail? Come kitten, show it." Because the kitten was too weak, it did not have the opportunity to show off. After being called out, it naturally put in all its effort and played dozens of tricks with its tail. The bull-lion beast almost fainted from anger. Could it be the same as the kitten? Its body was so big and its tail was so short, how could it possibly reach it? I'm not criticizing you, it's a hybrid breed. You said that you were eugenically bred, why didn't you pick the merits to evolve? If you had a long tiger tail, wouldn't it be over? You are a classic case of eugenics and eugenics failure. Look at your ugly appearance. Look at your cow nose and nose, they are simply too ugly. How about this, you can just kill yourself. Anyway, you are wasting the resources here, so you might as well make room for a good beast. The bull-lion beast was so angry that it roared and then fell to the ground, foaming at the mouth. It actually fainted out of anger. Meng Yanxi's rabbit eyes almost popped out. Oh. This little girl made the bull-lion beast faint out of anger? He didn't know whether he should praise this little girl for her sharp tongue or blame this bull-lion beast for being too narrow-minded. The nightmare beast jumped in front of the bull-lion beast and kept releasing wind blades. Unfortunately, it was too weak and only cut off a lock of the bull-lion beast's fur. Just as the nightmare beast was about to blind the bull-lion beast, Yunchujio stopped it. The pretty boy can't move now. He just happens to be lacking a mount. I think this hybrid is quite good. The pretty boy should be quite comfortable lying on it. Just as the nightmare beast was confused, it saw Yunchujio forming a seal with her hands. She actually wanted to establish a temporary contract with the bull-lion beast. Just as the nightmare beast was about to persuade Yunchujio to say that the spiritual sense of the ancient demon beast was strong and that it was not easy to tame it, it saw that Yunchujio had already succeeded in forming a contract with Meng Yanxiu. The nightmare beast swallowed its saliva. Alright, a monster was indeed a monster. However, that was also true. Even though the ugly bird and those idiots were too weak to look at them directly, when they grew up they wouldn't be easily provoked. Since the little girl was able to establish a contract with them, it wasn't strange that she was able to establish a temporary contract with this bull-lion beast. The bull-lion beast woke up very quickly. It felt that it had nothing left to live for. Not only was the majestic ancient demon beast angered to the point of fainting, but it was actually signed into a temporary contract by this smelly human girl in a daze. It was simply the saddest bull-lion beast in history. There was no other one. Bull, you will be my mount from now on. Don't worry, when I leave this place I will let you leave. I'm so sleepy, you stand guard outside. I'm going to go in and sleep. Daniel. Although the bull-lion beast could not tell what was wrong with this name, how could it, a dignified bull-lion beast, be called such a lame name? It was simply hopeless. Hei Xinjiu yawned as she entered the cave. She hugged Di Baiming's neck and kissed his lips. Little beauty, this young master has tamed the monster. Let's go back to sleep. Di Baiming, endure. A man can bend and stretch. Black thing, just you wait. After a good night's sleep, the first thing Hei Xinjiu did when she woke up the next day was to tease a certain lord. Little beauty, did you sleep well last night? Were you mesmerized by my heroic bearing when I tamed the beast? Come, let me give you a sweet smell. Hei Xinjiu kissed Di Baiming on the lips as she spoke and even bit him with her teeth. Di Baiming's ears and neck turned red even though he was shivering from the cold. No one knew if he was embarrassed or angry. Little Jiu, don't go too far. Go too far? Are you going too far? You played me so miserably. I didn't have the face to settle the score with you yesterday when I saw you half dead. And you said I went too far? Did I treat you as a maid? Did I shut you out of the door? Did I ask you to pour wine? I made you fall off the flying sword. Every time Hei Xinjiu asked a question, Di Baiming's imposing manner would decrease by a bit. In the end, he did not dare to say another word. Pretty boy, let me tell you, there is cause and effect. This is the bitter fruit that you planted yourself. Even if you cry, you have to eat it. Come, beauty, let's have another fragrance. Di Baiming was in pain but also happy. On one hand, Yunchujio kissing him was something that he could not wish for. However, on the other hand, he was a man. Being teased by his little wife, he simply did not want to live anymore. Meng Yanxiu used his claws to cover the mouth of Xing Zun and snickered. This black-hearted little girl was really something. He did not expect the Lord to be so defeated. Could it be that the Lord liked this style of Xing Zun? His taste was really different from the others. Meng Yanxiu was watching the show when he noticed the Lord glancing at him. Meng Yanxiu suddenly shivered. It was over. It was over. One misstep could lead to eternal hatred. The Lord would definitely not forgive Xingzun after he recovered. Meng Yanshou was so regretful that his intestines were turning green. He was using his life to watch the show. Meng Yanshou quickly thought of a way to remedy the situation. Therefore, when He Xinjiu wanted to tease Di Biming again, Meng Yanshou grinned and shouted, "Little fairy, shouldn't you interrogate that stupid bull?" Yun Chujiu slapped her thigh. Yes, it was time to get down to business. Meng Yanshou saw Yun Chujiu leaving the cave to interrogate the bull lion beast. He carefully approached Di Biming and said in a low voice, "Your Excellency, I was wrong. Please spare me." Di Biming snorted, "Let's see your performance in the future." Meng Yanshou immediately expressed its loyalty, "Your Excellency, don't worry. From now on I will be with the little fairy and my heart will be with you. You are the man I have been waiting for 10,000 years. I will be your beast in the future." Di Biming, get lost. Meng Yanshou said obsequiously, Good, then I'll leave now. I'll help you keep an eye on the little fairy." Meng Yanshou heaved a sigh of relief. No matter what, he had temporarily passed this hurdle. When Meng Yanshou reached the outside of the cave, Yun Chujiu was interrogating the bull lion beast. "Daniel, let me ask you, where is the 1,000-leaf golden grade lotus in the fallen god abyss?" Yun Chujiu asked. Although the bull lion beast didn't think much of the name Daniel, it was at least much better than a hybrid breed, so it tacitly agreed. It thought for a while and said, "This god-perishing abyss is very big. My territory is only in the periphery of the god-perishing abyss. I've never dared to enter it, so I don't know where there is a 1,000-leaf golden grade lotus. However, I heard that there is a big lake in the center of the god-perishing abyss. Maybe there is a 1,000-leaf golden grade lotus there. However, the deeper you go, the more dangerous it is. I advise you not to go in." Yun Chujiu asked a few more questions and found that the bull lion beast didn't know anything. She had no choice but to return to the cave. He Xinjiu first kissed Di Biming's lips and then said casually, "Little beauty, I've asked the bull lion beast just now. It doesn't know anything about the situation inside. What should we do next?" Di Biming automatically filtered out the title of Little Beauty. He thought for a while and said, "The fallen god abyss will only appear for 2 months, and the exit is in the big lake inside. If we can't get out in 2 months, we don't know how long it will take for us to get out again. However, I don't have any spiritual power now and it's difficult for me to walk. If we go in, I'm afraid that we will be doomed." He Xinjiu blinked her eyes and said, "It's okay. I can let Daniel carry you. Let's go to the territory next door and explore the way first. If it really doesn't work, we don't have to go in. Anyway, with the little beauty accompanying me, I'm willing to stay here for the rest of my life." Di Biming's heart warmed, and just when he was about to say something, He Xinjiu continued, "It's just because of Go Weiba that we can't have sex every day. It's such a pity. Otherwise, this young master will definitely satisfy the little beauty. It's not a problem for us to have sex dozens of times a day." Di Biming, "Do you think you're a lion? Dozens of times? No, it should be him who wants to have sex dozens of times. Fuck, I don't want to talk anymore." Di Biming's gloomy face was about to flare up when He Xinjiu leaned over and kissed him again. "Little beauty, I'll go out and arrange Daniel. Then we can set off." Di Biming was speechless as he looked at He Xinjiu's back. He gritted his teeth. Patience was a virtue. He had to endure it. He Xinjiu went outside and fixed a soft cushion on the back of the bull lion beast. Anyway, the bull lion beast was very big. Not to mention Di Biming, even 2 people lying side by side would not be a problem. After Yun Chujiu made the necessary arrangements, she returned to the cave and said slyly, "Little beauty, I have already prepared the transportation for you. I will carry you out now." Di Biming had already broken the jar and did whatever he wanted. Anyway, he had remembered every single stroke. It was not too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Yun Chujiu saw that Di Biming was actually calm. This guy blinked his eyes and used his hands to support his body. He looked down at Di Biming and said, "Little beauty, let's make out again before you come out of the cave." He Xinjiu said and went to untie Di Biming's clothes. A certain someone could not stay calm anymore. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.